Pixar is back in theaters this weekend with their newest movie, Inside Out 2. Should you go see it? Let's talk about it. Welcome back, Kernels. Last night I got the privilege of going to see Inside Out 2. I'm gonna quick show you guys this clip. This was kind of like my quick out of theater reaction, and then we'll kind of dive into the full review then.
Hey guys, so I just got out of seeing Inside Out 2. I'm gonna be doing a full review tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But I just kind of wanted to give my quick out of theater thoughts, reaction kind of thing. First of all, the two movies are very just close in terms of message and emotion. Obviously just one being a little bit more Riley's older kind of thing. I will say, I think, I don't know if it's just, you know, recency bias or anything. I think I actually might prefer this one slightly, just slightly. It deals with a lot more mature themes of just like that you are in control of what you do and not letting, you know, just things that other people do get to you. There were a lot of moments in this movie that I was like, oh wow, look at that, like that's something that I do, and just little things that I noticed all throughout the movie. So again, stay tuned for a full review coming tomorrow, and till next time, guys. Peace.
All right, guys, so real quick, before we dive into this review, if you are new here, consider hitting that subscribe button. We're almost at 1K, thanks to all of you, so thank you guys so much for that, and let's hit that 1K. Without further ado, let's dive into Inside Out 2. So the movie picks up kind of like 1 or 2 years after the events of the first film, and Riley is now a teenager. She is, you know, getting ready to go to high school soon. She is just kind of growing up, I guess you could say. So what ends up happening is she gets accepted to this like hockey camp kind of thing to, you know, try and show off her skills to potential people who would want to see her play on her team, and even to this like high school coach that she keeps trying to impress the entire movie. It then centers around this group of girls that, you know, she's trying to fit in with and just change everything about her until eventually it becomes too much for her. And eventually, you know, must kind of re-evaluate who she is as a person and just be that person and still try to be the best person that she can be. So I would say probably my favorite difference that this movie has from the second one, aside from the new emotions, of course, is that the first movie ends with, hey, you know, it's okay to be sad sometimes. But they do this really interesting thing by the very end of this movie where it's like, okay, well, up until this point, Riley's emotions have been determining when she should feel something. Like, they watch and then they step in, right? At the very end of this movie, there is this little thing that they do where there are like sparkles of yellow, like Joy's color, coming from the board, basically calling to her. Riley has now, with everything that she's gone through in this movie, you know, she went from, you know, just pretty simple things that she wanted in life to having anxiety, envy, embarrassment. There is a purple emotion. She doesn't really talk much in the movie. I'm a little forgetful of her name. With all of that going on, and then, you know, the person that she becomes, it's cool to see that Riley has matured enough now to know that, hey, my emotions don't control me. I am in control of my emotions, and I will tell myself what emotions I should be feeling. And that's such for a kid's movie, especially a Pixar movie, that's such a emotionally rich message to send. And honestly, like, kids will definitely enjoy this movie, but I just think it's really neat how they manage to kind of send a different message that's still even more meaningful than the first movie. Another pretty big difference from the first movie is that a lot of of our 6 main emotions, I remember disgust, fear, and anger, were like in the central tower for most of the first movie. In fact, I think it was all of the first movie. And then it was joy and sadness who kind of went out on their adventure together to kind of help Riley. And so after joy kind of gets like sucked up and they're trying to get back to the central tower, right? Well, I think it's pretty interesting because in this movie, you have all of those emotions working together. Sadness does end up going back up to the tower at one point, but for most of the movie they're all together, and you get to see like all their different perspectives as the journey that they go on through Riley's mind, and it's just cool to see them kind of all together in the movie. I really enjoy it. And then you have the total new crew kind of just like operating, knowing what they can up in Riley's mind with anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and then like the one that I'm just gonna call her Boredom for the sake of this video because she has like a weird name, but she's just like, oh, blah blah, I don't care about anything kind of attitude. So there is this new concept that they introduced in this movie, and it's like, I forget exactly what they call it, but it's essentially like Riley's foundations. It's similar to her core memories, but it's like her foundations as a person. It's not necessarily like there are 6 memories that define who she is. It's more or less like there's a river, and this river, like, there are sprouts that come up, and those define who she is. Like, oh, I'm a good person, or I'm this, or I'm that. And it's a really, like, sweet way of just finding who she is. And it's also really good, like, physical, because this is Riley's mind, a good physical representation of what that looks like. So what ends up happening is anxiety keeps, like, they get rid of, like, oh, like, what Riley normally thinks of herself, and anxiety keeps putting all of her own, like, twists and spins into what she thinks Riley should be. Like, oh, if I make them like me, I'll be a happier person. All of these, you know, not true ideals. And this is eventually what leads Riley to, like, nearly have a panic attack in the movie. I initially saw Inside Out 1 when I was about the age of 12 or 13, right kind of near the events of I would have been able to look back on the first movie and think, wow, I kind of just finished that part of my life. Well, in this movie, it's like the perfect time because I'm now, you know, 21 years old, I'm a lot older, and I get to see, like, look back at myself as a teenager, seeing what I went through as a teenager. Those are things that I definitely went through when I was that age, and things that, like, you don't even think about that you did, like just the way you expressed yourself, or things that you did maybe to be more popular at school, or just all the mistakes that you made as a kid, and getting to watch that unplay as Riley experiences them, and then seeing, like, how your brain naturally wants to help is really special. And I think they do a really good job of, like, quite literally, there's a line in this movie that I love, and it goes, you know, as we get older, we don't experience as much joy. Like, because joy's like, I don't think Riley needs me as much anymore. And that's a really powerful and sad message to send in a Pixar movie. And it really, when that message was received in my audience, everyone went quiet. You could hear sniffles, and it just kind of broke our audience. We're like, wow, you know, that's so true. I also want to talk about the new emotions because they are really good, especially anxiety. My personal favorite was envy, just from how short she was and the way she looked on with admiration to everybody. But anxiety is such a good portrayal of exactly who she is. By the way, Maya Hawke does a fantastic job voicing her. But anxiety, like, she's so, like, oh yeah, like, I'm, you know, willing to help, but then, like, she starts as this very, like, oh, you know, I'm so sorry to intrude, but then realizing that, like, oh, I must intrude, and she just becomes, like, this total master control of everything. And it's really, like, obsessive, quite literally how anxiety is, you know, oh, I have to fix this thing, or I have to fix this thing, or I have to fix this thing, and she becomes, like, super fast, even to the point in the very end where there's a giant anxiety tornado, like, surrounding the console, and, like, almost nobody can get in, and she's, like, just trying to, because she's, like, trying to fix everything, and she can't. She just can't fix everything. And that was a, like, wow kind of moment. Like, you can worry about things, but you can only worry about things so much and try to fix things from your own perspective so much. They also do this really great thing by the end of the movie with anxiety, so when they do resolve all of the issues, they don't just get rid of these new emotions, they embrace them, but in a healthy way. For example, I really like the way they did anxiety because they represented her as, like, oh, don't forget this. Because they were like, oh my god, like, what if I forget this, or what if they don't like me? And it's like, okay, anxiety, like, it's okay. And they put her in this chair, and they're like, oh hey, we have a history test tomorrow. And that's a really good example of anxiety, like remembering to study for something, or remembering to do all those important things that you need to do in your life, and still having a bit of worry, you know, as to be human and not just be carefree about nothing. I really like that kind of where they ended up with anxiety. The last thing I want to talk about is just how much I love they are physically able to represent all the parts of Riley's mind. There is this moment where the 6 original emotions get bottled up and they're like, oh, we are suppressed emotions. That's a really good joke. They even have like this vault that they try to lock the emotions in, that are like really old things that Riley thought about, like a video game character she had a crush on, deepest dark secrets, which by the way, if you stay after the credits, there will be a like little thing about that. So definitely stay around for that. But just like getting to see all these little other parts of Riley's mind is really cool. And the way that it's all physically represented, because it's a Pixar movie and they're trying to physically show you what, like, oh, I don't know, like for example, they do this one bit where it's like sarcasm, and it's a chasm that when you speak over it, it's sarcastic. And I just think that those little intricate things that they have in there were really vital to this movie and just the series as a whole. Overall, it really is a fantastic sequel to the first movie. Dare I even say it is just a tad above it because of certain things like getting to see all the emotions work together throughout the whole movie, and then introducing the new emotions that don't trump the old emotions, and then just getting to see growing up as a teenager, which can be a bit harder of a thing to overcome, especially anxiety, which is a thing that I know a lot of people deal with on a regular basis. And that's just, it's really cool to embody that and help people maybe that go through that. But yeah guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for my Pixar ranking, which I'll be trying to get out as soon as possible after this video. Until next time guys, peace.